Hello, hello. Thank you for joining me today. We are doing a live interview with my very special guest, Stephanie Womack. So glad you're joining us today.
Thank you for having
This is my first live interview, so give us some grace if we have any bloopers. But Stephanie is the owner of Chateau Wo, which is a pole dance studio in Charlotte, North Carolina. She was also one of my students for a long time. And before we get into your background, I had a couple questions for you. These are my favorite questions to ask at my workshops and my retreats. So it's only fair that you share your answers as well. Who is your favorite diva?
my favorite diva, like
Yeah,
in dance or like all time.
just diva, like artist, singer.
I'm gonna have to say Sophia Loren.
Yes, I love that. I love that. Okay, and your high school celebrity crush?
Oh my gosh, I think it was Dylan McKay from 90210.
Is that the name of the character?
Yeah, what was his name? Luke Perry. That was
Luke Perry. I love it. I love it.
the way.
Okay, and then the first concert that you ever attended. So not like the concert that your parents took you to, but like the first time you went out to a concert by yourself.
I believe it was KRS-One.
Ooh, I love that. Mine was Moby.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
Yeah, yeah. Super, super funny. Okay, so I would love for you to tell us a little bit about your background and your journey from going from student to studio owner.
Hmm.
So I'm just gonna let you take it away.
Okay, well, that is a pretty long process. I started pole dancing, and now it's like 11 years ago. So
Mhm.
I was 30 when I started pole dancing, and I had always loved dancing. I was a B girl, so it was like I wanted to find something, and I didn't know how much I was gonna love it till I came to my first class, and I just became obsessed. And it was just such an like amazing experience. People were so encouraging in the environment that I was in particular, and I just felt this new sense of self and sexy and like femininity, which was really challenging at the time because I was like starting to really grow and peak as like a boss babe in like
Mhm.
job that I was in. And I was also in a really toxic relationship at that time. So I had lost a lot of like, I don't know, in my mojo, I guess. I feel like my
Mhm.
sensuality. So I became addicted to it, just addicted. And then obviously I love music so much. I grew up in a family, that plays music. And so I just need to connect with music on that level. And I just felt like as an adult, it was something I could continue to do.
Mhm.
I kept with it. I kept with it. I counted like over 846 beginner classes.
Stop. And I want to say that your first class was with me.
It was.
I know, I know. I remember actually.
It's so crazy. I knew that I always wanted my own business, really, to be
Mhm.
honest.
Right.
Didn't realize that it was going to be a dance studio per se, because it was the experience and the environment that I had grown to love. And when I moved away from that and was visiting different studios, I just wasn't getting what I thought the
Right.
experience I had. So it was like, I want my own business. I want to show people an experience. I know that I can do that. And there wasn't that environment that I was looking for. So I decided to create my own.
Hmm. What was the boss babe job that you had?
So I was a regional and global educator for L'Oreal luxury brand Urban Decay Cosmetics. And managed $50 million of business for them and developed teams all over the country. And then I developed global concepts that they used in the field for their training.
Mm-hmm. I remember we would talk about that a lot, and I was always so interested and like so fascinated by the process, especially when you would talk about the trainings that you would do for them and like how some of it was digital, I think you would say,
Yep,
versus like actually, and just, you know, being an educator. So it's not like you came to studio ownership without a lot of skills. You know what I mean?
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, being a studio owner has nothing to do with being a dancer, quite honestly. I think
Mm,
it's are a dancer, but you have to know how to develop a team for one, because it's not
right.
just you. You're the only person teaching people. It's harder to like monitor that. You have to know how to motivate people. You have to set a tone, a standard. You have to know about numbers and finance,
Mm-hmm.
all of those things, you know.
Mm-hmm. So when did you open Chateau Wo?
So our grand opening was January of last year. So
So
we made it here.
I love that. I love that. And what would you say is the brand of your studio?
Our brand is a movement-based studio. So we are a pole studio with movement forward thinking. We focus on simplicity and refinement and music mostly.
Mm. I love that, as you already know. And also, I feel like you put a lot of attention into detail into designing the space. And like you said earlier, you're really big on experience. So how did that influence your design of the space and like the experience you want your students to have?
I think it started with knowing exactly how to treat people when they walk in because it can be intimidating to come to a studio. I know that's what held me back a long time from going back to dance classes as an adult is that it's intimidating to walk in. So even the way I design the entrance and the way that people greet people and walk them, they do a studio tour. And I made sure we had all the amenities that they needed, like wipes and makeup and setting spray, and a way for them to feel luxurious and like they're at a destination from the minute they're in the studio. Even in our dressing room, there's makeup lighting that I put in there.
Really?
Yes, I'm obsessed with lighting, and also
Hmm.
mostly because my mom was actually, she specialized in designer lighting. She actually made and manufactured custom lighting for performance theaters, people like Lionel Richie, very high-end clients. So
Mm.
really had a very extensive background with lighting as well. So she did help me with those things.
And I know that can be a common piece of feedback. I just heard someone recently tell me that they love going to this one studio, but the lighting is just like not flattering. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it takes them out of the mood when they're dancing.
Yes, it's like if you go into a dressing room and you know what I'm talking about when they have those mirrors and you know that's not what you look like in an outfit. It is a thing. It's like setting the mood and
Hmm.
the tone so that they can like breathe when they get in because if it starts immediately, then I have a better chance of them relaxing and feeling sexy and
Right.
feeling sun, you know?
But I even love that in the dressing rooms and like paying extra special attention to women who want to do their makeup before they come in or something like that. I love all those little details that you're putting attention into. And you said simplicity. So you know that I am big on simplicity, and you did my teacher training where we talked a lot about focusing on refining the basic movements. But as we both know, that is not always the case in the pole community. And we've had some conversations about this. And I feel like everybody has conversations about it. And it's kind of the elephant in the room. of
Yeah.
like the trick buffet that's happening. And I say this because I get the DMs, I get these messages, and I feel like what we're selling is not necessarily the experience. So I'd
Yeah.
love to hear your perspective on that.
So I just got a client. I'm gonna tell you like a real time
Mm,
situation. I'll give you this real time client came in. She came from a different studio, and I said, "Well, why'd you stop pole dancing?" It was her first time at my studio. Like, did you take a break? Did you get injured? You know, we kind of had that conversation. And she said, word for word, it stopped being fun. Literally, that's what she said to me. And I was like, and then I could see her smile on her face when we were like vibing with the music and she was enjoying herself. And I
mhm,
think that's so important. If you're trying to learn all of this repertoire, you don't even have time to like enjoy and engage in the music. It's like you've skipped all that because you can't possibly retain that many things. And also for somebody who's 41, that's not inclusive to my body. Like my body needs time to learn things still.
mhm,
Um, and I just felt like there's a gap for those of us that want to take it a little slower and actually enjoy the music, you know? I can't
mhm.
enjoy the music if I'm thinking about falling on my face every 5 minutes.
Definitely. And like you said, I feel like it's become so accelerated, right? And my position has been unique because um being Alethia's younger sister, I feel like I have watched this industry not from its inception, right? Because she went to a pole studio. So there was already a pole studio. You know, there were already competitions and things like that, but it wasn't um as popular or as widespread as it is now. And during that time, you know, doing a jade split was like, wow, wow. And now you have to hang on with your pinky and like wrap the back of your neck on the pole and dangle from one little toe. Like and the same thing is actually happening in the dance world where the, um, the new style has become so acrobatic that it's not necessarily even dancing anymore.
Mm. I really agree with that. Like I do. And it makes me sad because music is like the connection of dance and music is a thing.
Hmm.
It's, and I'm not like saying, hey, gymnastics isn't, but like if you're calling it dancing, I mean, you kind of need to learn how to dance.
Right.
You know?
Right. But also we have to think about, and you know, like we talked about in our teacher training, the majority of the students that you're going to be working with are beginner.
Yeah.
So the reality is that the percentage of people who are going to be going in that direction are very small compared to the percentage of people who are going to be in your beginner, beginner intermediate. Um, and as a business too, you want to really focus on continuously getting those leads in. And
Mhm.
if they're walking in for their first class, or you know, I think what happens a lot of times is they'll do the 5 to 6 classes of beginner. This is what I see a lot. They'll do their beginner 5 to 6 classes and then they jump to level 2 and it's inverts or,
Mhm.
you know, climbing and spinning on the pole and doing all kinds of tricks and stuff like that.
Yeah. At our studio, I just did this second round of beginner series
Right.
after training, and actually almost half of them rebooked it, which
Yes.
I'm happy to see. And as a studio owner, it's my job to talk to my clients about what level is really truly for them
Mhm.
and what their goals are, and realistically what that looks like for you and your where you're at. is it healthy for you to accelerate that fast? Probably not.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with spin pull, I'm very big on like controlling tempo. I see a lot of people that have a lot of tricks, but they have no control of their spin, no
Mm-hmm.
idea. And in that you find that in the beginning and the basics. That's why you have to go back. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that's a whole nother element that I feel like people don't realize. They're like, let me just spin as fast as I can and hope I get into this trick and the next trick and the next trick. And it's like, I don't even know what they're doing at that point because they've done so many things. Like I can't even see
Yes.
it.
Yes, I feel the same. That's one of the pieces of feedback and advice I give to people all the time is to hold the shape for multiple rotations so we can actually take it in. Sometimes it's flying by so quickly. And like you said earlier, um, there's not often a like consistency piece for the students because the combinations and the tricks change every single class. So they'll try something once and maybe never do it again. And so we never really get to experience the beauty because it's always changing and it's changing. I feel like the dancing gets faster and faster sometimes, you know?
I do. I do. I find that when students are consistent in doing the same thing, not
Hmm.
only do they gain that confidence, they're so much more into the music. Like I'll see them like dress up for the song and like they're like also one of the main like taglines for my studio is find your rhythm. Like you
Hmm.
can't find your way until you've really like spent time like in the basics and really exploring. It's like you can't do that if you don't spend that time. Then you're just going to be hurrying up to try to look like somebody else, typically, is what I see.
Mm, yeah. And it really makes me think of makeup because I've been working on getting better at my makeup and there's there's techniques. That would be like me wanting to get into like cut creases and graphic looks and you know what I mean? Before I even know how to do a simple wing or something like that.
Oh, 100%. And I would get women like that all the time that want to learn how to do a cat eye. I would tell my artists, don't wear the cat eye the day of the event because everybody's going to want a cat eye. And I would have to be like, not everybody's gonna get their wings today. We're gonna start with like a kitten eye and like let's practice what that
Mhm.
looks like and even just brush technique. So the amount
Yes.
of pressure that you apply, the amount of grip that you're holding, like there's so many things involved that like you can't possibly learn it that quick. I mean,
I
it's just
know.
not to me, you know.
Uh,
It's slowing down and repeating and repeating. Like, I would even tell clients, like, just focus on the pat and the press today. Like, we're not doing smoky eye. That's going to happen in a couple weeks.
mhm.
It's frustrating for people when they can't get it. Like they also do get frustrated or discouraged, or then that's when they're going to lose confidence in the instructor, to be honest, or go somewhere else.
What when they go too fast or when it takes too long?
When they're not able to retain what the instructor
Mm.
is, when they don't feel like they've learned anything or they don't feel fun or they don't feel like they're not getting that dopamine sensation from the experience. You're just, trying to like show off that you're going to the Olympics or something.
I mean, like I said, we're on the same page because I've said this before. When everyone else was going faster, I was trying to go slower. And I am really proud of the experiences that I've been able to create in my beginner classes to the point where it's so fun that people don't care that they haven't learned a new trick.
Right.
It's not about that. It's about, like you said, the music and the movement and finding the joy in building, over time and not trying to rush the process.
I don't know why it's pole in particular, because I'll look at like something like Zumba. Like people love Zumba. That's why it's so popular, because it's achievable. It's something that
Right.
it's inclusive and everybody can do. Or like yoga. People don't just let you go do some crazy bendy yoga pose like in your first two yoga classes. It's interesting to see the dynamic of that. And I think sometimes studios are scared that they're not, or teachers, and I have seen this, and as a studio owner, this is super important. I've had to explain to some of my teachers that are more advanced, like, you don't have to teach them something different every time. I know
Right.
you think that, but the client's going to be happy. Change the song up, change where you're doing it, make them not look in the mirror. That it'll feel like a whole new move if you don't let them look in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's
Mm-hmm.
in they think they have to do something different every time, but I have to regulate that, and those beginning experiences and having real honest, like, I don't have to, like, you never beat me down when you were my teacher. Okay. You gave me corrections. I still have a post-it note from a long time ago. It
Mm-hmm.
was just enough to make me want to get better at something, but like still have a challenge and still feel motivated. Like it was great. So I think it's a balance, and if somebody is not ready at my studio, quite honestly, it's a liability. So the answer is no. Sorry. As a business person, you have to separate yourself. And that's the other thing, is like, a studio owners don't always have the knowledge of being a business owner. That has nothing
Yes.
to do with pull. This has to do with my business and liability and what makes sense. Like, and that doesn't make sense. Somebody doesn't come to the gym and you like say, oh, you haven't ran 5 miles yet. It's okay. We'll start you off with one, and next week you'll be up to that 5 mile, no problem. I mean, their cardiovascular system cannot handle that.
I know. And like you said, I also understand why is it like this in poll. And like I said, this is the elephant in the room because the students experience it. They know that something's off. I literally just had a conversation with somebody last week. They know that something's off. They can't put their finger on it because no one will talk about it. And part of it to me is like I've always told people, you don't need to have experience to come and try pole, but we are going to be walking around, you know what I mean, and doing some body rolls. That does not mean we're getting in the air. Like you can come, we can make it Zumba pole, you know what I mean, where you walk around, it's really sassy, like a bachelorette party, but we are not starting to introduce, weight bearing moves and things like that. Cause like you said, the liability piece is something that's so, so important. And not even cardiovascular, but like, let's say somebody walked into a gym and you put 200 pounds on the squat rack.
Right.
I mean, you could really, I feel like people don't understand, like you can actually really hurt yourself doing this. And so the promotion of like, you don't need any strength. Those posts kill me.
It's cringy. It's the it. The kids say it. It's the ew. No.
You know what I'm talking about? The advertise, you don't need any strength. You don't need any flexibility. And it's like, wait, well, hang on. What are you talking about here? Because again, correct. I've had, moms who come in with their daughters who have never done anything like this before in their life. They're in their 40s, 50s, 60s. They have a blast, but we are keeping it so, so PG.
Mhm. Well, I appreciate that, because I mean, think about how far I came with you. I mean, I've come to classes for years. Had you like sent me on a path where it was too hard, I probably would have never come back, to be honest.
Mm,
So it's also like, if people don't start realizing that, what they're gonna do is like alienate pull, like, and keep it at this like level of like, well, these people, these women, mostly men, obviously, I've got a couple of males too, but like, they're not gonna think it's accessible to them, like,
right.
and that's not cool, like, to me.
I think we had talked about this in the training, that instead of focusing on the people who want to progress at an accelerated pace, we're forgetting that there are so many potential clients out there who want to come, but are thinking like, hey, I don't want to sign up for adult gymnastics. Like, I just want to, I just want to dance. You know what I mean? But if you go online and that's what you see, and it's, heels and people spinning up in the air at quick speeds and moving a mile per, 1,000 miles per minute, they don't see themselves as fitting into that space. So I feel like it's not the best business move to promote that, because there's only a small percentage of people who can do that. So you're really pulling from a really small population of clients.
Yeah, and that's where you have to separate yourself as a pole dancer,
Mm,
studio owner. Like it's just that should be your bread and butter. I mean, I know that, right? Like you're always, and especially if you're going to want new clientele, and there really is a small percentage of people that actually are going to get to that advanced level. I mean, that are going to have the time in their day to dedicate to cross train. I remember one time you said something to me. It's amazing because you probably don't even remember this kind of stuff, but I remember things that are very impactful when you say them to people. And you said, nobody expects you to dance like me or Alethea. Okay. We dance all day. We're here all the time. Okay. You all have like regular jobs, regular life. And it was just like that moment. I was like, well, yeah, that makes sense.
right.
Like, obviously, I don't have enough time to put into something. And it's the commitment level that people, if it's an extra curricular activity, that
Mhm.
means it's extra. So they don't have the time to dedicate to the training to develop those skills, to do those crazy things. That's going to be a different population.
Totally. Totally. And I would love to hear more. Like, my next question was about, what are some aspects of our community that you feel we could all work on and professionalize? Because I have always, always wanted pole to continue to elevate, expand, and grow. But I personally feel like there's some conversations that need to happen around professionalism, especially from the business owner perspective, because that little story prompt that I posted the other day about, like, what are some things that you want to say that you might be afraid to? I got a lot of comments about, you know, studio owners having business plans and things like that. So I'd love to hear your perspective, especially with your background.
So I think having a business plan, like I plan out a minimum of 6 months in my business, minimum, and I'm getting even more savvy with it. But understanding that you're evolving with your students as they go, understanding that you need to be present in conversations if somebody's ready to move to the next level, or you have somebody dedicated to do that. I also think continuing education in
Mm,
this. I see a lot of studios certifying teachers as part of their business plan, which I don't think is a bad thing, but it has to be better. And just because they had a certification doesn't mean they're experienced at teaching. So you would still need to like facilitate how that looks. I see a lot of that happening. There are so many aspects to teaching, including just public speaking skills
mhm.
and social cues. And it's a business, so like it's still a job. Like if you showed up to work with me at Urban Decay late and unprepared, what's going to happen? I'm going to have a conversation, and that's to be expected still at my studio. I see a lot of people, teachers in particular, like a lot of people wanted to work at my studio, and quite honestly I haven't hired them, and that's because they weren't the right fit. Just because you're the most advanced student doesn't make you the best teacher. So being open to feedback and knowing that you're going to have to give your staff feedback, starting classes on time, making sure the experience is cohesive with all of your teachers. Sometimes I see a lot of like disconnect where this
Right.
teacher's just doing whatever and this teacher's just doing whatever. and then it makes it really hard because the clients don't understand that it's not curated together. It's like they
Mhm.
might as well just face then and like just teach on their own without it being like it's not even a brand. It's like they're so disconnected, you know. I think that's important is really driving like to be a leader, you've got to do that. And
Mhm.
it's not always a pleasant conversation, you know.
Right. I know. And that's, I know because that's one of the things that came up from some of our cohort members was that conversation around leadership and like recognizing that when you decide to open a business like that and you're hiring people, you have to be prepared to have conversations with your staff and train them and mentor them and guide them and have standards. Like, what are the standards? For me, that's the piece that I wish that we would talk about the most. What are the standards that we want to have as an industry?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely don't think, I think it's interesting because I don't see the standard. And I also see so many people like being political with, oh, we're inclusive vibes.
Mhm.
But inclusivity is to me is body types and ages. And I don't see that. I really don't. I have a lot of people that end up at my studio because they feel like when they go to a class, it's so competitive and everybody's training for the next PSO or whatever. And they're like, I mean, I'm just 50 years old. I want to like learn to pole dance, and this is not what I signed up for,
Right,
you
right.
know? So, and I am trying to do better here in Charlotte with actually talking to other studio owners. So
Hmm.
I realize that where I've opened up quite a bit to several other studio owners just so that we could at least have some dialogue.
Hmm.
And, you know, hopefully that will over time help.
Hmm. I know what you mean about the intensity that kind of takes over and like the constant filming and again that rushing. I talk about it so much, the rushing energy, which is brings me back to the comment you made earlier about like it's not fun anymore.
What she said. She's like, people are just filming themselves. They're not even connected. They're like, ooh, I got the camera. I look good this way, that way. I'm like, you know what? They need to pay for the content time. Okay. That's why I built my space to look
Hmm.
film studio and also my intellectual property as well as my teachers. You don't get to just have that every day. Like you're paying for a class, not like, it's kind of a, I really try to, it also changes the way that people dance. If I know somebody is filming me, I get in my head and then all of a sudden I'm not the dancer that I could be without it. Do you know?
Hmm.
So I think that's getting a little bit out of control.
It's very out of control. And and that's, empowering teachers. And again, the training, like continuing education, I feel like is the missing piece so that we can continuously revisit these standards and empower teachers to say no. I feel like more teachers need to say no. We need to have more boundaries.
That's a good idea. Yeah, that's a really good idea. I mean, I even told one teacher, honestly, she teaches something that's not pole based. And it's just because I feel like she's not at the standard of where my studio is. And I told her, I hear you. I would love for you to get more knowledge. You can come to my series for free, see what we're doing. But until I see that you're at the standard of what my studio is doing, you're not going to teach it. Like, you also, you know what I mean? Like, you have to kind of tell people where they're at. Like,
Yes.
not another studio doesn't mean you're ready to teach here.
Yes. That's just the truth. Like we were talking about on my Instagram post today. And going back to like the makeup example, you can't send one of your employees out on the job to, let's say, um, what is it called? Like a wedding.
Ooh.
Could you imagine? Well, she's really nice. It's so funny because you can't do this in other professions. You can't
That's
show
why
up and like not do your job. and not be prepared. I mean, you can, there's those wedding makeup disasters, but that also comes back on you. You know, you want to put a product out there and like stand behind it.
Yeah, I think I'm very particular about my name and my brand, and it's important. I don't like if I can't fill a spot, guess what? I'll teach it myself. Like I'm not going to use people to just be a body. That's not how this works. Like that's not going to create an experience for people. You know, if I just let my makeup artist, like you said, go out there and try to like color correct somebody, I'm not even giving them the tools to be successful in the first place, you know?
For sure. For sure. I'm just imagining the
It's hard because you have to give them feedback. And like one person in particular on my team, I love her. She's amazing. But I've had to really be like, we're coming up on the reviews where it's actually a
Mm.
conversation review of like, what are you doing? And I have all these guidelines, but I also share the conversation of my own review. So they really review themselves. But I'm just like, I'm sorry, but you're not ready. You're not prepared to teach pole because you haven't showed me. You haven't shown up. Like if I'm giving you the opportunity to show up, you have to put people through some rigor. They should show that, like any other business.
Yes, yes. We need to, I feel like we need to start treating pole like any other business. And that's why I started my teacher training program, because a lot of people don't even have like a template that they're using for their classes. A lot of studio owners don't require their teachers to follow a template, um, you know, things like that. So I definitely think we could all benefit from like, because, you know, the next question is, what do we love about the community? And there's so many things to love, but I feel like we get so into the community that we forget about business.
Yeah, it's like they're not the same thing.
No, they're not.
They're just not, I'm like, there's so much more to building that. And it's not always going to be an easy conversation when you're running a business with people and being a leader. That's like part of the skills and the training that are involved. I've had so many people are like, I want to open a studio. I'm like, well, that's cool. Like whatever you open, like you still need to have these skills that, require, just like you need skills to be a pole dancer,
Hmm.
you know. So
What are the parts that you love about it the most?
I love the way it changes people's confidence.
Mm,
I love that they can find an escape and they love the experience that I created, like the whole studio as a whole, like the atmosphere. Like I had this one woman tell me the other day, she's super country and super sweet. And she's like, Stephanie, I drive an over an hour and a half. And every time I leave here, my emotional cup is filled. And I just love that. And I love that she's standing a little taller,
hmm.
it's not just about being the best pole dancer. It's about creating those client relationships and seeing the growth and like seeing how happy they are when they get something and how
Yes.
much fun. I love creating experiences and that's what it is. And I almost forgot about that at a certain point because it's so bad. Because I see so much of it going on. I'm like, am I doing something wrong? And then I was like, no, that's not what I'm doing.
Hmm. I really love that it brings women together, because I feel like there aren't too many other things, like you said, in our adult life. And it's more than women, right? But 99% of my clients are women. So we know that it's more than women, but it is unique that
Mhm.
I feel like this space exists where it brings people together, um, in a way that like Zumba doesn't, you know,
Yes,
because it's more intimate.
definitely.
So that is something that I personally treasure. And that's why like I'm so passionate about seeing it elevate.
Yeah.
I like to see pole on par with Pilates.
Yeah. We have a lot of Pilates in our training. In my warm up, there's always Pilates. We're a
Mhm.
train. second nature. When I first opened, I had an athletic director who did own her own Pilates business in the UK for like 26 years. In fact, I turned her on to you, so I think she's taking lessons with you
I
now.
think, yes. Yes, yes, yes.
So she has helped me understand a lot of
Mhm.
that too. So really also talking to people that understand those dynamics to keep it a healthy place is important.
Mhm. Love that. So what advice, because I talk to a lot of people who are interested in either opening a studio or they're new studio owners. And again, that you've already kind of answered the question, but I'd love to hear more of your thoughts. The question I feel like, or the answer that you provided already, is that being a good pole dancer does not necessarily make you a great business owner. And I've always, because people ask me all the time, are you going to open a studio? Me helping Alethea own the Chrome bar, or sorry, open the Chrome bar, because that phone when we first opened was forwarded to my phone.
Woo, ciao.
It was all hands on deck. You know what I mean? I was like pumping gas, like, hello, this is Ariel from the Chrome Bar. How can I help you? You know what I mean? So I understand that owning a studio is a whole separate job from being a pole teacher. And I feel like my skill set is best as the teacher. Um, so what advice would you give to people who are either thinking about it or who are newly, like they just started and they're kind of like, oh my gosh, this is more than what I thought. I was just going to be like dancing. And now I have payroll and awkward conversations and everything like that.
Yeah, funny because I danced the least when I first opened. So
Of course. Of course.
an interesting journey to definitely can experience that part of it. I think my advice would be to be sure that you honestly talk to business owners that doesn't have to do with pole, other business owners. You need to have a plan, know what your yearly goals are, and that includes staff, progressing your staff, being a team leader, or hiring somebody that can do that for you. Looking every month and reviewing where you're at and then tweaking for the next month, but also staying consistent for like a good 3 months to analyze your data. Like really take time with it, you know that you're gonna have to know those things. You're gonna have to know quarters, and you're gonna have to know how the money is working, and like, creating incentive programs and how you really create your infrastructure. That's like the other thing, and your experience, because it has to be a whole. If it's just you, it's easier to control. But when you have an idea, the idea is only good as the execution.
Yes. Yes. Systems.
Yes, absolutely. Systems, month to date, week to date goals, really understanding how to track those things, and getting feedback from your team for your business, and tweaking things where you need to, and finding what makes your brand tick. But all of that work is done like on the computer and like behind the scenes. It's planning. It's a lot of planning. Like I just promoted Carol to my events manager, and I did all of that myself. But like finally we built it to a certain
Mm.
place. Oh, and I'm like, once we get there, now I can hand this over to somebody else and continue that. So it's really understanding that you're going to have to develop a team, and, reach out to mentors that can help you understand what that looks like. You know, HR training is great. Highly suggest it. And you're going to be tired. It's
Yep.
not as it seems. Also, maintaining your facility is a lot of what I do. I had to unclog a toilet yesterday. It was super
Oh,
glamorous.
100%. I had helped Alethea open Chrome Bar and worked with her for 10 years. And then I also managed Orange Theory Fitness Studios. And as the studio manager, you're cleaning. You're cleaning.
A lot.
And people, again, I like talking about the reality. I feel like the more we talk about the reality, um, the more it helps people. Because I know a lot of people who, have opened because they have a dream of creating a space where everybody can come and dance. And then it becomes almost like, I don't know, the curtain falls and they're like, wait a minute, I didn't really consider all of these other things. But it can be fun and it can be successful if you know what you're getting into.
100%. And I love business. I like developing business. That's why I wanted my own business. I like developing people within a business. That's a big part of it too. And you're really good at developing people,
Mm.
but developing people within your business is really important if you're going to have that. And that's a huge skill. And then the maintenance part, like I work part-time right now at a handy service company because I wanted to learn some more handy man skills, handy woman skills. So I patched my own roof leak a couple weeks ago. Just saying.
I love
Just
that.
so you've got to, and you're going to have to be able to do things on your own to cut costs, and also be careful with the way you spend your money, because just throwing money out to Google ads, doing those things, that's not how you create community. That's just, you're just pushing in dollars. So understanding how you're creating the community, cross promotion and marketing and building is also, there's all these like pillars of your
Mhm.
business, these buckets of your business, and you've got to understand what they are, and laying them out ahead of time. It really is imperative. It's preparation. You have to prepare yourself.
Yes. I love that. And I think that for me, one of the most beneficial things has been investing in mentors and not just like impulsively, oh, I need to market, so let me impulsively spend a bunch of money on ads. Or sometimes trying to figure it out on your own isn't necessarily the best solution. And getting whatever piece of that expertise that you can, like whatever's in your budget, is usually the best way to go. And identifying where your weakness is, and like whether it's you need, you know, hey, I'm not getting any leads, like let me go work with a lead expert for fitness studios. I don't like the quality of my classes, let me invest in leveling up my teaching skills, whatever it is.
Yeah, I did. That's why I went to your teacher training. And ROI, they're called ROI, return on your
Right.
investment. So, and if people need help with that, I'm always around. And in fact, I'm about to launch something pretty soon with
Mm.
a couple of like little modules of business training, because I've been lucky enough to have had a lot of mentors through working with L'Oreal. I've won a
Mhm.
president two times, like there's reasons, so it's really important. And each time I tweaked it, I remember telling somebody, look, I built a store where we had an event, and I was like, oh, we're gonna do this event, and we only made $1,200. It was awful. Just it was unsuccessful, waste of my payroll. And then I built that event so strong that I think it was 6 years later, as I kept building and building, I did a $20,000 event there 4 years in a row.
That's amazing.
So you can't get discouraged either by just the
Right.
little things that I said. You got to like reflect and refine and move. Like you can't let it get you down.
Right. There's ups and downs with, because, owning my own small business, there's ups and downs. And I love it. Like, especially when things are going like really, really strong. And then like, I was just thinking about this the other day, and we're going to wrap it up soon, but, um, it was a couple years ago that I had like rented space and nobody showed up. What'd you say? Sorry, it cut out.
That's helpful to hear, actually.
Oh yeah. Like it was just for like a one-off class, you know what I mean? And it was so funny. It like really tickled me, you know. It really, really tickled me. And you're going to have ups and downs. And like you said, it's almost a metaphor for what we were talking about earlier. It's about the consistency, and like I always say in pole dance training, put your deposits in the bank and let the interest do the rest. Because especially if you're starting with a new project, your launch, it might not be exactly what you want, but if you stick with it 2 years later, 3 years later, you know, you're going to have it down. But we can't expect, you know, we can't put seeds in the ground and expect flowers tomorrow. We just can't.
It's so true, though. It's so true. And so many people do. That's the reality of that, too. Or they're just totally like broken because one thing happened and it's like,
Oh, right. I mean, I had fun dancing by myself when nobody showed up, and I really laughed. I was like, oh, you know, Ariel, like it's good to have these moments and remember that, like, you know, just because you're successful one day, it doesn't mean that you can slack off, because you know what I mean? You always have to stay ahead. You always have to continuously refine and improve and keep growing,
yep, it's so true.
because your next sale is like, you know, where your attention needs to be as a business owner. It's not about the ego. It's not about showing that you're the best dancer. Like you said, it's the numbers on the computer screen.
It really is. It's like it's not glamorous, is what I could tell you, unless you're passionate about growing and developing businesses. It's a different field, like it's a different skill. You can still be a professional pole dancer and not be a business owner too. That's okay, by the way. Like,
Right.
okay. Like, yeah.
Right. But I
So,
love the honesty and the transparency, because, um, like I said, I get these DMs, I'm having these conversations. And so I know, like you said, that these gaps are real. So I really appreciate your perspective. Tell us where we can find you, how we can come see you if we want to dance with you, and anything else that you want to add.
you can find us at chateauwo.com. It will lead you to all the socials on Instagram. You can find me at Miss Womack on Instagram with one S. And I just want to say, like, take it slow, chill out. It's just dance, and dance is not dead.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for joining me for my first official, like, podcast interview for my YouTube channel.
I really appreciate you having me, and it shows a lot that I've been your student for, I don't know, 10 years, and now I own my own studio and still come to you all the time. So
I mean, it works if you work it. And it's been my absolute pleasure. Like I said, I literally remember our first class together and what pole we were using at the very first Chrome bar. I can literally tell you where we were in the room. And then the peel.
yes, the
Peel.
people. Oh my gosh,
And
girl.
like how much fun we had. And again, like we were all there together. And like, yes, you know, you'd want to film and have your special moment, but and like we said today, the numbers are really what is important for a business, but the experience is what's important for the clients.
Yep. And they go together. Turns
Right.
out.
Yep. If your experience is bad, you're going to see those numbers drop. So that's just the way the cookie crumbles. So yeah, I'm so glad you joined us, and I hope everybody gets a chance to visit, including myself, Chateau Wo in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we will be signing off, and I will see you guys in the next video.
Bye.